Musically meditated.
Musically meditated. Musically meditated.
All right, welcome to Musically Meditated Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Riley, and with this particular episode, we're going to do hip-hop's finest of 2018, and I have two guys with me. Bojan, first of all, you've been here before. How you doing?
I feel great.
Great.
I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, you came on almost a year ago, and it was your favorite albums of 2017.
Yeah, this will be similar to that. This will be only in the hip-hop genre, but yeah, it'll be similar.
And you also came on for a record store day one.
I did. Yeah, that was a really fun episode to record. Our record store day did not go as well as we had planned, but it was fun to record.
Yeah, I had to work at midnight, and then I was a little bit late, and then something happened with you too, right? Or was it just all my fault?
I think it was all your fault.
Okay, that's fine.
No, nobody's fault. Nobody's fault.
And you also brought your friend with you for this episode, and his name's Rodney. What's up, Rodney?
What's up, y'all? How y'all doing?
Good, man.
Great.
How are you?
Thanks for inviting me out.
Yeah, right on. And you guys have been friends for a long time?
Yeah, we've known each other for quite a few years. Now we just play old man basketball once in a while together and
full court.
Of course.
Well, you
There's
said
no other
old,
way.
You said old man, so
it still qualifies as old man basketball.
We're just not sprinting. We play Spurs style. We set up.
Limited defense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right
Nobody's diving.
Right on. Well, for everyone, I'm going to do a little shameless self-plug. Musically Meditated is available on all listening or podcast listening platforms. We're doing the webcams now on YouTube, so please subscribe and share. Share it on Facebook or all that stuff. So, the more people that know about it, it helps out in the long run. But it's also on Instagram and on all the social media, iTunes, Spotify, so on and so forth. So that's all I have to say. But now let's do this. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about our top 3 favorite hip-hop albums, but not necessarily in any order, but our most listened to, because there was a lot of stuff that came out this year, and I've revisited a lot of these albums. We talked a little bit before off mic about what we wanted to, get into, and I'm just going to go right into it, Rodney, with your first one here. Evidence. We got Evidence.
Yeah. Evidence, whether or not this album, like, to me, this is a personal favorite more so than like an overall hip-hop favorite, because me and my friends were just chilling, watching YouTube, drinking like we usually do, and then we'll go on YouTube and see what the latest hip-hop videos are that came out. And then my homie was a big fan of Dilated Peoples, which Evidence is from.
Is he? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the only song I really knew for them was the one he did with Kanye West. I can't remember what it's called, but it's probably their most popular song. And I heard this and I was like, man, this is okay. This is all right. And then we seen that his album was coming out that following Friday, I think. So I go home and I listen to it, and I'm like, man, this is a lot better than what I thought it was going to be for somebody I didn't know. And then when the weekend came, it was just like we all blindly listened to it, and we were like, did you hear that Evidence? And we were like, yeah. And we all just really liked it. So it became the background music, and we would just play it on rides whenever we were going somewhere out to eat or wherever the case may be. And it's just really dope. Like, he has a monotone voice, but like if you listen to his lyrics, some of the stuff he says is really makes you think about life, and he, like, some of the songs are really deep. Like, he has a song at the end how his wife was breastfeeding his son and found out that she had breast cancer, and it's really sad because in the song, it was previously recorded, so he was like, you saved her life, but then she ended up passing this year, which is unfortunate. Yeah. So
Thanks for the buzzkill, Rodney.
yeah, my bad.
No, it's all good. But that is deep. That's very deep.
Yeah, and then he had a featured artist, like a lot of featured artists that he had on there. Styles P, one of my favorites growing up, and
Me too.
Rhapsody.
John Wayne too. I saw John Wayne was on there.
Yeah,
Are you familiar with him?
I think I know what you're talking about. He must have did some of the singing vocals.
And he produced. It was like towards the end. He like produced one of the tracks. But he's a really, really good MC. Bojan and I talked about him a long time ago.
He's kind of he sounds like
Kind of
a
like
deep
Biggie.
voice. Yeah, a little
He's
bit
got
like
a little
Biggie.
Biggie touch. He's a white dude, but he's a really good MC and he's a really good producer. But I forget what the track was called, but that stuck out to me, and so did Styles P.
I think Atmosphere's on there, or Ant from, not Ant, Slug.
Slug
was on there, I think.
because
too.
this dude's on Rhymesayers, and that's what really stuck out to me. And then, like, I knew about him a little bit, like when you mentioned it,
Yeah.
and then I listened to the whole album. But I was like, oh, he's a Rhymesayers dude. So I was like, okay, he's going to be a little bit more of a conscientious, like, hip hop MC,
yeah.
you know. And then, with Rhymesayers and Slug and Atmosphere, I mean, they're legendary to me personally.
Yeah, and then Evidence produced like maybe a quarter of it, so it's like his beats are really good. And Alchemist is one of my favorite producers of all
Yeah,
time,
he's
and
great.
he produced on there.
Does he produce everything for everybody all the time?
I think so. Yeah. Does he ever get a day off?
No, he's so busy. Like every time you look up, he's producing somebody else's album. There's a Homeboy Sandman. Do you guys know him?
No,
That's who Evidence sounds like to me. That monotone kind of, finishes the sentences very, very abruptly and then moves on to the next sentence, but kind of monotone in that same kind of voice. Also a really good rapper too. So that kind of stuck out to me when I was listening to it. I really liked it.
Like
It was good.
monotone, like I don't want to compare him to the Jizza, the genius, but the Jizza always had like that same monotone voice when he flowed, and that's what I got from this dude. Like when I listen to this, it's like he's not screaming or doing anything too crazy, but
yeah.
But yeah, he was a good MC, and I really liked the production. I forget what the main single was, but it's probably the one that what's the producer you said? Alchemist. Yeah, I think he produced that track.
Yeah, it was. I think it was "Walking in the Rain."
Yep, that's it. Yeah, really, really good album.
That was the single we had seen, or the video he had for it.
Yeah, the video was really
Remember
good.
how influential videos are to like music? Like when I watch a video and it's good and it goes with the song, I tend to check that artist out.
Yeah.
I'm like quickly brainwashed by like good, audio video collaboration. Like if it makes sense, like all of a sudden I'm like, watching something that
You
I'm
love it
listening
even
to, so I
more.
like it even more. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
that art. It's that full immersion in the art.
And that's like a whole topic in itself, because it's like we would watch MTV, BET, and they would show the videos to us like radio fashion, but now there's no like Spotify videos or something like that. You have to be almost recommended something to see it, and then maybe go to what's playing next and hope it's kind of good.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Like, but it does help with the art form, especially like for the artist. If
Yeah.
that makes any sense. Like you said, Boyan, like if the video goes with the song, it's even better.
Yeah.
Even better. But yeah, I liked it. I thought it was a really good album. I remember like in my opinion, like the first like 5 to 6 tracks I really liked, and then towards the end it kind of lost me because it's super long.
Yeah.
It's like 18 tracks, It's like, so sometimes less is more, I feel. But like with his flow and what he's trying to say, like you said with the breast cancer thing, and then losing his lady, like that's awful.
Yeah, and then he has some like, have you ever heard of Step Brothers?
No.
It's Alchemist and Evidence when they're in a group together and they just go back and forth and rap. And there's some song on here with Alchemist, Evidence, and I cannot remember what the other guy's name was, but he just comes in rapping about how like whack MCs is food, and how he like puts different seasonings on them. And I'm like,
Oh, I
yo,
remember that. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
I
Yeah.
thought his verse was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was like towards the beginning of the album, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right on. We'll move on now to it's Prime, right? Is that how you say it?
Yeah,
Prime 2 is the album.
correct.
So I had no idea about this, and I'm glad you shared it with me because it's amazing. It's amazing. I love obviously Premier, right? So he's the main producer and DJ behind it.
Yes, probably, or is my all-time favorite hip hop producer.
Yeah, he's a heavyweight, man. He's a heavyweight. And then Royce the 5'9".
Royce the 5'9" is just basically the black Eminem. That's really what it.
Yeah, and then they're buddies too. I mean, remember they had a beef for a second, didn't they? Wasn't there a problem?
Yeah, that was a long time ago, but then they resolved that. During that time, I want to say they were both like like, I know Royce was an alcoholic, and then Eminem was doing whatever drugs he was, but then they got sober, and then Eminem ended up helping Royce get sober, taking him to a clinic to get cleaned up and everything. So now they're real cool now, and all that, they squashed all that. And
yeah, it was a long time ago. I remember he was like with them, like my favorite Eminem freestyle that's came out like within the last 5 years was the one, like I think it was like in 2015, remember, and like Royce was behind him, and he was like in that abandoned
the Shady XV Cypher.
Yeah, that was my favorite. That was my favorite one. But yeah, Royce the 5'9" with Premier is just like a beautiful combination, man.
Yeah, and their first, I don't know if you checked out their first one, but it's really good. And I'm like, how are they gonna top this? And it's right on par with it. It's both albums are really good. I like and Rhapsody's on this one too, and they have a take on like their song. It's like street code ethics and how like guys street code ethics, like no snitching, no this, but then like the double standard of like, but women can't do this and women can't do that. And she like goes into her verse and talks about how she's been stashing money on the side and she's just about to leave him and stuff like that, and like how everything ain't adding up. It's really cool.
Really cool. Yeah, I like all the I'm a huge Big L fan, and Premier, you know, like especially with Gangstar, when Big L passed away, they put him on and they would always, you know, shout out his name and stuff. But Royce brought up Big L quite a few times on this record. And, you know, they used a few samples too. But I like the song Black History because I like in the beginning, like it's really crazy and chaotic, but then it like mixes into like a little bit more slowed down beat. And then he just like really starts talking about like Black History as far as MCs, you know, like it's the second track. Like that was a really good song.
Yeah, he started off with how he was born, and then when the beat switched, he got into how Gangstar was formed, where Guru was born and where Premier was born, and how they came together, and then all the artists that Premier worked with were put on to hip hop and, you know, help them develop and whatnot.
Yeah,
I love tracks like that because, I mean, some of that stuff you just don't know, and then you start to listen to, you know, the connections that they seem to have. When I was listening to this, and then, you know, Joe sent out that, you know, Gangstar was turning 20, the album was turning 20, and you listen to those things, his production, just like Alchemist, or just like, you know, any very famous or really well-known producer, there's that signature. So there's certain things, you know, the sampling, the scratching, like there's not that many producers anymore that are scratching. No. You know, there's not that many people that are doing that anymore in their music. So I'm glad to see Prime is, you know, Premier is still doing some of those things that, you know, they were doing 25 years ago, and they were cool 25 years ago, and they still sound good now. Royce the 5'9" is another guy that I think is like overall underrated. Overall,
I agree.
He's an amazing rapper.
When you talk to people that are, you know, really care about lyrics and really care about what people are talking about, you know, his name always comes up, and he's not all that famous if you ask, you know.
Yeah, he doesn't get
people.
his just due.
Kind
of like Guru, ain't it? Like after Guru passed away, I never thought that Guru from Gangstar like really got the props that he deserved.
Yeah, maybe we'll get into it later, but Guru, and the way that his delivery was completely different than a lot of what people were doing at the time. So yeah, I agree with that. A lot of times it takes for somebody to die, and then they're like, oh, you know, this was pretty impressive.
And we'll get into that with Mac Miller when I talk about Mac Miller. But yeah, man, this was a really good album, Rodney. So thanks for putting it on, man. Like I had no idea about it, and then when you sent it, I was like, all right, I'm gonna look it up on Spotify, and then it's like, oh, this is Premier and Royce the 5'9". Like, why did I not know about this?
Yeah, it's just like a total bar fest. Like a lot of the songs don't have like content in it, but it's just bars on top of bars and punchlines, and, you know, just how much of a better MC, braggadocious.
Yeah, that
stuff.
90s thing, you know. It's for all of us, we grew up with that, and it's like, you know, it's nice to see it going on now.
Yes.
You know, not to have to go back to those albums we grew up on, but it's perfect. Now let's move on to it's one of your favorites and mine too, Pusha T, Daytona. Now I gave Kanye some shit many episodes ago, and I have to bite my lip, or bite my tongue, so to speak, because he put out a lot of good stuff this year. I felt like, he did the one thing with, what's the dude from Cleveland?
Pusha T?
No.
Kid Cudi.
Oh,
Kid Cudi. What is it? Kids Only See Ghosts or something
yeah,
like
Kids See Ghosts.
Kids See Ghosts. That was really good. The production was good. He did Nasir, with Nas. That was a great album. But this one, like the production, like those two should keep putting out music, you know. But yeah, man. You got anything else to add about that?
Yeah,
about this album?
Yeah, because I didn't know what I was to expect. So I remember I played this, and the first song, because Pusha T's just known to be like drug raps.
Mm-hmm.
The first song, there's no beat in there, and all you hear the hi-hats, and it reminds me of like if somebody was cooking up on a stove and you couldn't get the gas to work on your oven, so you just keep hearing a hi-hat like that, and that's what it reminded me of. And then once like the beat dropped, it's like he finally got the stove to ignite, and then the whole album was just fire after that.
That's a really good interpretation. I like that.
If that was intentional, if maybe Kanye is a brilliant genius.
He is a brilliant
If that was
producer.
intentional, yeah.
He said it wasn't like that at first, that it was actually beat or instrumental through the whole song. And then Kanye West was like, no, let's just take it off because the stuff you say in the beginning is cool and I want them to really hear it. And then it was his idea for that. But to me, that's what it just sounds like, full on, like I'm about to turn on a stove for you guys and cook something up, and I want y'all to be ready for it.
Yeah, because like his voice with Pusha T, he's always kind of had like that snarl.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like almost like an Eazy-E, like a little bit more high pitch, but like it catches your attention. And with this album, it reminds me of the Clips, like Lord Willin', like with the beats. Like I think Kanye was able to like
Mimic
it, but I want to give him his credit too. But to push Pusha T's best qualities behind certain beats, like maybe a little bit off rhythm and different samples. Because remember that album back in the day, like
for
with
sure.
Grindin'. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah,
it was
The
amazing.
Neptune's production.
Yeah.
And I like Kanye West's verse on here. I think this is one of the funniest verses. Like, am I too complex for complex kind? Like, how do you say something like that when you start the song? Like, and he talks about in his verse, he talks about if I get pulled over and have a MAGA hat, will you guys let me slide? Like, who says funny stuff like that? Like,
well, Kanye's a little crazy right now.
Yeah. But I didn't take it like, I don't know. I just try to separate the two. But but in the content of the verse, like I just thought it was really funny, like him like kind of poking at himself, kind of, and then
that's the thing. Like he has those moments. Like even on his album. His whatever it's called. I hate being bipolar. It's awesome or whatever it's called.
That was pretty good too.
Yeah, well, in the entire album, he is poking fun at himself. He is talking about how he's crazy. It's amazing that he is able to, make that music and make those incredible. He's still a great producer. But then also he can say some of the most outlandish, like ridiculous shit and do some of the most ridiculous shit. I don't. It's like they're two different people.
Yeah,
it's like he's got his Twitter commentary that is one person, and then he gets in the studio and it like clicks. Like that's where he's supposed to be like a savant, like an idiot savant. Like somebody that can't tie their shoe but can do like quantum physics or something.
I mean, that would make sense. He calls himself a musical genius, so that would fit in that realm.
I think with music too, like there's a lot of artists that I enjoy and celebrate, and they do some weird stuff that I don't agree with. Like outside of their music. And like with Kanye, he's one of them, but at least he has a sense of humor to make fun of himself. And what I'm getting at is I think he does a lot of it on purpose to draw attention to himself, to stay relevant. I wish he could maybe step back a little bit and just let the music speak for itself and not have to do weird shit all the time and say weird shit. But, ego driven and whatnot.
Did you think his Pusha T's album cover was tasteless?
Maybe that's a good question. Maybe
I hate it.
Maybe towards the family, like I think that's kind of shitty for Whitney and Bobby's children. Well, one of them passed away, ain't it? Didn't
the
one
girl,
of them?
Right?
Yeah, I believe she killed herself. But I think that's a little tasteless for like the family.
Why do it? You know what I mean? I just think it's.
I think it's a cool album cover. I think it's cool, and I think it's a great idea. But then when like you really break it down, like that's it's a little tasteless.
It's the room that somebody died in.
Yeah.
For what? For a seven song album?
Right, but
I don't know,
Pusha
man.
T came out pretty hard this year. Like even when he did his days or his Drake diss, I talked about this a few episodes too. It's like, there's a fine line with diss tracks, but like where do you draw the line? Like what's too far? And like he dissed a few of, like he brought up a couple of Drake's dead friends, like so Drake didn't come back and do a diss, and that's why Drake said he didn't. I mean, Drake's kind of a wuss, but you know what I mean? Like there's a fine line. Like do you talk about someone's mom or their wife or their girlfriend, but they're dead friends? Like, but I think Pusha T was just this year, like he just wanted to come out with just fire, and he didn't care and he didn't look back. So even with the album cover, you know what I'm saying?
He's almost 50 or so he's got to
Is
do it
he?
now or never.
Is he really?
I don't know. I'm assuming, like, Clips came out almost 20 years ago now.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that
02 or
that Lord
03.
Willing, that was a great
Yeah.
album.
Yeah, he has to be like high 30s.
yeah, you got to do
like
some
very
math on
high
some of
30s.
these guys.
Yeah,
And then his brother, what was his name from Clips?
Malice.
Yeah,
Malice.
Malice. He got really, I don't know, was it really religious or just mindful? Like he doesn't.
Yeah, he didn't like the. The religious side of him didn't like how the hip hop industry is and everything that's going on there, so he just decided to fall back.
Yeah.
But he still, I want to say he still makes albums, but it's not like he's touring or doing anything of that matter.
more of like a family man and in the back because.
Yeah, or like more like a passion project. I still like rapping, but I don't want to have to do this for a living.
Right.
I've listened to so much rap these last like 3-4 weeks getting ready for this. I can't remember like Pusha T's on a track. I can't even remember what album it's on, but he talks about Malice and he talks about how my brother was offered $500,000.
Anderson .Paak.
It was on it. Maybe it was on Anderson
Yeah.
.Paak. Yeah. So it was like he does mention him. He talks about how he's offered whatever $500,000 to do something and he didn't want to do
Yeah,
it.
he turned it down, and then Pusha T was like, "Cool,
Yeah. I love you more than any. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
like, yeah. I
no
still
hard
love you.
feelings."
Boyan, what'd you think about this album?
I
Was it one of your
love the
favorites?
album. I do.
Okay.
I thought it was really good. I love from the first track. The production on track number 1 and 2 stand out to me more than the rest of it. I didn't think the beef with Drake ended up kind of superseding everything else that happened. Even though I didn't think that was like rap guys, I think sometimes can be very sensitive, or maybe somebody told them, "Hey, this rap was about this is about you not writing your own rhymes." To me, it was like an afterthought, and then it became like the focal point of the whole entire project. Unfortunately, because I did love it. I am biased. I've always liked Pusha T. I've always liked Clips. I've always thought that they were really good. So, if you guys didn't have it on your list, I have it as one of my honorable mentions. So, I love this album.
Yeah, right on. I think too, with that, there's a hype element. Like even with Machine Gun Kelly when he came after Eminem, there's a marketing strategy behind that. So Drake sells a lot of records. Everybody loves Drake. There's a lot of younger kids that have no idea who Pusha T or the Clips are. So what's a great element to sell and promote that album, right? Come at Drake and say some really outlandish shit.
Yeah,
And
but
come for the jugular.
I was surprised Drake decided to diss him now, because he always was just poking him with a stick. Like I want to say almost all his project is one little bar. You could be like, that could be about Drake, but it could not though. But he's always poked him and Lil Wayne. Like,
Isn't that always part of like Kendrick had that situation, J. Cole had that situation, Meek Mill, right? They're all these different rappers that have like one bar. I think Drake they're all a little bit, just like I am, a little bit surprised at how famous Drake is, because I don't think he's great. I just think he's got that great personality. He's got like the whole package. He's got the good whatever. He's handsome and he's got like millions and millions of fans. I do think he can rap and all that, but I do think these guys kind of look at him and go like this dude was on a famous TV show when he was 12. Like,
Yeah.
what is he rapping about? And they kind of have like that animosity towards him. So there's a lot of rappers that kind of go at him.
They do.
are.
It's kind of a jealousy thing, and I feel like Drake's like the kid on the playground too. That's so nice and sweet. Like, why take shots? Like why bully on him? That's what I was kind of mad about with Pusha T this year when he did that. It's like, why? I mean, you're a way better MC. Just light
Maybe
off
because
a little
somebody
bit.
is ghostwriting his raps.
Yeah. That's been going on for a long time. But yeah, I love that album. It's up there, so I'm glad we all agree on it. And now we'll transition into my top 3 most listened to. First, I'm going to go into Sarface meets Metalface. Now, obviously, that's Sarface is Inspector Deck from Wu-Tang, Esoteric, right? That's his name. And he was with
L7, I think.
L7, and then he also did the stuff with Vinny Paz and them, Army of the Pharaohs. That's the first time I ever heard of him. I don't know if you guys have ever listened to Army of the Pharaohs.
No.
But it's amazing. It's like Vinny Paz, Just Allah, Apathy, Self-Titled, and then him, like a bunch of dudes. Like they came together, and it's some really good raw Philly hip-hop. I mean, they're all more from the East Coast, but everyone should definitely check out Army of the Pharaohs. So that was the first time I heard of him. And, you know, and then you combine MF Doom, who in my opinion is the best MC living right now. Like
MF Doom?
Yeah. Yeah.
Number one?
Number one on my list.
Ooh.
Without a doubt.
Ooh.
You agree or no?
He's in my top 10.
Okay. But I think the punchlines, the rhyme schemes, like the guy he's brilliant. Now, to talk a little shit though, like with this album, he seemed a little bit like lethargic and lazy. I thought he could do better, but I think it was just his tone.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if he was recording his stuff in England or whatever, but he didn't. But he kind of always has that tone anyway, doesn't he? I don't know. I'm going all over the place, but what do you think, Bojan, about this album?
I love this one too. It's
Okay.
number one on my honorable mentions.
Okay.
No, I am partial to Doom. I think he's there's a persona in like that. I love that villain persona that he puts on, and some of the lethargic stuff that he's doing now. I do think it's different than, you know, like Food.
Mm-hmm.
Like you put on Food and then you put this on. They're two absolutely different albums, you know, because he's changed, you know, he's, you know, whatever, 15 years since Food.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, people do change, but his delivery, you know, the beats on this, I think it's the best he has been. You know, I don't even know. I'm trying to think of the last album I thought was as good as this one that he was a part of.
Okay.
There was a bunch of those like in between. There was one with what's his name? I can't even remember at this point. He keeps making these like, you know, albums
collaborations.
collaboration albums, and I never thought that he really put a bunch of effort into it. But this one I do feel like there was effort. It seems like it was something that was interesting to him, and plus he had a good rapper that was going also on the track with him. You're not going to put out something that is terrible when the person is just going to eat you alive every single every single track is Inspector Deck is going to beat you unless you bring something
He's one of the
good.
best because he was always the one for Wu-Tang that always opened up the tracks. That's what the RZA always relied on. Like Inspector Deck set the bar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he always, like a majority of the Wu-Tang stuff, he opens it up. You know, I mean, think of Triumph as an example.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's one of my
Deck
favorite.
Most notorious.
I mean, that's one of the best
Yeah.
opening hip hop lines of all time. I mean, it's Inspector Deck. You know,
I
but
think I used to do that when I used to say that rhyme when I was going to bed.
A bomb atomically.
Yeah.
Instead of praying, you rap that.
God.
Make me like Inspector Deck. But you know, I love the you know, going back to like the 90s, the boom bap with this. You know, it's a really good boom bap type old school hip hop, and they have an instrumental of this too on Spotify. And I play drums, you know, as like a therapeutic thing, and just to get out a little release. And I was playing drums to this album a lot this year.
Nice.
You know, because I can keep up with it. I could do some kind of technical stuff or whatever, but I love playing drums to this and like old MF Doom stuff too, like, you know, just playing the drums to the boom bap, you know. But you're not saying who do you like better than MF Doom, Rodney?
Oh man, that's.
I know it's a. I mean,
if we're talking bars, I'm not always gonna go, but I go Lupe Fiasco.
okay.
He like the Cool and Food and Liquor is just so good. But MF Doom, but Food has to be like in my top 10 hip hop albums of all time. Like there was nothing like that I ever heard, ever, and it was just the comic based of it. I always thought like, man, why don't somebody should do comic stuff, which stemmed from the 18 Alien cover. I'm like, man, somebody should go more into that. And then I hear this, and then I didn't like it at first. I'm like, this dude's flow is so weird, and it doesn't.
It's off time.
Yeah, it's off time, and I don't like this. Which how most MCs or people I end up liking start, and then I'll go back again. Like I always give people a couple chances.
Mm-hmm.
I just won't listen to it once unless it's like super bad, and then just discard it. But I was like, all right, I listened to it again. He made a whole Adult Swim album.
Yeah.
I really like Adult Swim. Let me check it out again. And then it just clicked. I'm like, yo, this dude is crazy.
And let's not forget Mad Villainy with him and Mad Lib. Like
Yeah.
that's in my top 10 favorite hip hop albums of all time.
Yeah, people seem to like that. People seem to think that people say that's Doom's best album.
It is.
Or most people's favorite album.
And Freddie Gibbs, when Freddie Gibbs was with Mad Lib on Pinata, he was right behind him. And I'm not just saying
I
that
love
from a
it.
biased thing with Freddie because he's from our area, you know, from the region. But, you know, to rap over those beats and samples that Mad Lib puts out, that's a whole nother ballgame.
The pairing of Madlib and MF Doom is perfect. Like both of them have like the alter ego. Quasimodo is, you know, Madlib's alter ego, and they kind of played off each other. So that album's a great like kind of concept. They're both buying into that like not necessarily superhero, but like you said, comic booky, over the top. You know, to me, I love that villain persona because he didn't just do it one time. You know, it's been his whole entire career, and some of the stuff that he's done that, you know, is kind of a villainous thing to do, like not showing up for your own concert. That is, you know,
Yeah, that's bogus.
Yeah.
That's what,
I don't like that at all either.
completely
I'd be really
completely
pissed.
bogus. But the like Food is like, I will always go back to it. It'll be like, if you look at my Spotify right now, it's probably, I always try to move the playlist up and down like what I'm listening to at that point. It's at the top. Like it's always at the top. I always will scroll it up to the top because
Yes.
I will always listen to it.
and it's
Go ahead, Rodney.
and it's like he doesn't rap about the same topics. Like he'll pick a crazy subject matter, and then his rhyme scheme about the subject matter will just be on point. Like cookies at the end of it. How are you rapping about girls being different type of cookies while you're checking your email? Or rap snitches. Like you're just talking about how everybody's rapping about selling drugs and all types of incriminating things, and you're just telling on yourself the whole time. And you wonder how you get in trouble. It's because it's right there in your lyrics.
But that's what's cool about Czarface. It's like the I know when they came up with that, it was like an anti-hero, like a comic book thing.
Yeah.
So I did buy a cool, I think it was like a 7-inch. It came out last record store day, so it came with like a comic and so on and so forth. But nerd alert for sure. But I like I like that too, the whole comic book thing. And now I'll move on to Mac Miller, Swimming. This was like my summer jam. I don't know if you guys have listened to this that much, but I liked Mac when he first came out a long time ago, like within the last 5 years when he had like the song Donald Trump. You know, not that we like Donald Trump. I don't know about you guys, but I remember when that single came out and You Could Wear My Hat, and I'm like, who is this kid? You know, and he had a really good flow, seemed very likable, and then he started showing up on a lot of other people's records. And you know, one thing about Mac Miller, after he passed away, like everybody showed him a lot of love.
Yeah.
You know, and he seemed like an extremely likable guy, and it's unfortunate that he's gone. But the Swimming album, man, it was really good. And what caught my ear was Tiny Desk. He had a Tiny Desk performance in the song 2009. I thought it was really awesome. So then I started digging deep into it, and then he passed away, and I was just like, what? You know, like just blown away. So I don't know. You know, sometimes when an artist passes away, you'll go and revisit it more. But it's a really good album from front to finish. It's got this cool kind of like a jazz rap thing going on. You know, like I don't want to say Tribe Called Quest, but you guys know what I'm saying. Like
Yeah,
there's like
yeah.
a cool instrumental, and I think he was really finding himself too. You know, kind of being able to pull off the hooks and sing it himself. It kind of sounded a little druggy or lackadaisical at times. I didn't really care for, but I really listened to this album a lot, like right when it came out. So did you guys like it, or Rodney?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I know I played Jet Fuel a lot, and Oblivion was
Oblivion,
good.
yeah.
And the second track, I don't remember the name of
Me
it
either.
it has that has probably the most bass and out of all.
Yeah,
of the,
cool bass lines, ain't it?
yeah.
Like jazzy, like the bass lines sound almost like I said, jazzy, or like a fretless bass, like a cool jazz rap vibe.
Yeah, 2009 is really good too.
It is. It is. How about you, Boyan? Did you check it out?
Yeah, I listened to it here, in the last couple weeks, getting ready for this. I watched almost all the Tiny Desks. So when that came out, whenever somebody does a Tiny Desk, you can kind of get a feel for a lot of times what their album is, the feel of their album, and it's not easy. I don't think it's easy to do a good Tiny Desk, and his was great. His was great, and you can kind of tell, like you said, it seems like he was finding maybe his niche. Maybe it wasn't this kind of trippy, drug rap or whatever that he was doing in the past. Maybe it was, kind of shifting to something a little bit more mature. So as I went through this album, it kind of, there's a lot of deep, very personal things that he's talking about throughout the entire album. And so, like I said, I was never really, I never really listened to him, not because I didn't like him. I just didn't listen to him until that Tiny Desk, and then the last couple weeks listening to the album. It's unfortunate. It makes you feel really sad for him, and the direction that he was going into musically is one thing, but it seemed like he was maturing, when he died, like you said, it seems like everybody was like devastated.
Yeah, the
like
whole hip hop community, like the new wave
Yeah,
guys, everybody was like, from Freddie Gibbs to Kendrick to John Wayne, like I mentioned earlier. He said something. I mean, he's worked with Schoolboy Q. I mean, it's just, you can go on and on. Tyler the Creator. Nobody and no one had anything bad to say about this guy.
Chance the Rapper.
Chance,
Chance put out a thing that was like this dude made my career. Like, he took a chance on me, taking me on tour, and I would have, I maybe would have never been fully discovered. Anderson .Paak's another one. Like, these are guys that dedicate their career to this dude. I mean, when somebody's gone, you want people to say that about him. You want people to say those nice things. So it's sad when I'm listening to the album now after he's passed.
Yeah, it's sad.
It is sad. I can't help but get it out of my head that this dude just passed away.
Yeah, and the song he has with Anderson .Paak is a classic. That will forever be probably my favorite Mac Miller song.
Yeah, he was a good MC, and I know, like, digressing back to when he started, he was just a little white teenager kid from Pittsburgh, and him and his buddies had like a team, and they made their own videos, and they were all quality. And another thing about Mac too, like watching his interviews like on the Breakfast Club or with Sway or whatever, it always caught my attention. Like, they're like, well, who's some of your favorite MCs? He's like, Big L. I'm like, what?
Oh yeah, he always
said Big L. I'm like, all right, I like this kid, man. Like, but it's just unfortunate that he's gone. And for everybody listening, check out this album. It's a really good place to start. And, there's a little bit of, hardship or buzzkill behind it because he passed away. But I really rocked it a lot.
Have you guys checked out any of his other albums?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Like, Best Day Ever's, like, that's what got me into him. His very first, I don't know if it was an album or a mixtape, but that's what got me into him. And then there was another one, like, where he's sitting at a table where he's like almost naked,
singing sounds without music, I think.
Yeah. And like, I remember the song with Schoolboy Q's awesome. So there's a lot of his other stuff, but this album really caught my attention. I thought it was a really good summer listen. And like you said, Boyan, you can like go back and reflect, like, maybe on his life or your own personal life.
I heard he has people say he has a lot of unreleased music, and supposedly he has an entire album with Pharrell, but they don't even know if they want to put
Really?
they're trying to decide what they're going to do with all that, if they want to even release it, or just if he didn't release it, then maybe it shouldn't go out to the world.
Okay, well, hopefully it sees the light of day. Boyan, now it's your turn. We're going to transition and go into your top 3 most listened to.
All right, I'll start with Denzel Curry, Taboo. I'll give you a lot of credit, Joe. You kind of put me on. You said I think it was on one of the episodes.
One of the episodes.
You mentioned Denzel Curry, so I put him on a playlist. I was mowing the lawn, and I was like, whoa, because when you start to hear about his background, it's like Florida rapper. Miami, Florida rapper specifically, and I was like, I don't think I've ever liked one Miami Florida rapper in my life. But this was a guy. It's a kind of a breath of fresh air from some of that stuff that the Florida rappers are about. It's not about drugs. It's not about fancy cars. It's not about the beach. It's not about any of that stuff. It's a little bit more personal, a little bit more deep.
And posy too, very posy. He's got some posy vibes behind him.
Yeah, there's the one track, Perks, where he talks about, I don't take perks. I don't even take anything from the earth, because he is straight edge. I read
didn't know that.
Yeah,
Is he?
He
Okay.
is. Yeah.
Cool.
So to see a guy that's coming up in the Florida, I don't even know what you call it, drug rap, SoundCloud rap, mumble rap world, to make something like this, is there that element of kind of a poppiness to it, that is, very prevalent at this moment with a lot of popular rap? Yeah, but I kind of love it. Like, there's certain times in my life where I just need to turn up the volume really loud and listen to, like Sumo on his album.
Sumo, yeah, when that came out. This was definitely, like, it could be I listened to it a lot at the beginning of the year when it came out, but yeah, Sumo, it's like the beat. And I just love his rapid spit. Like, he spits like a machine gun fire, like he does that a lot. And with this album, he kind of gets away from that, and you feel like in the very beginning of it, it's kind of like a 90s feel. Remember, like the first three tracks, it's a little bit more chill, and then he goes into like typical Denzel Curry. But I kind of liked how he switched up his style a little bit for this album.
Yeah, I went back to some of his older mixtape type stuff, and it's track by track, it's a little bit different. I guess it is broken up like into 3 parts, but to be honest, there's
Clips.
there's not really a separation between the 3 parts. I do think like the beginning is a lot slower and softer and kind of a little bit maybe more personal, and then it kind of gets a little bit more, it gets louder, and there's more kind of banger beats type of stuff. You turn it up in your car and you drive a little bit faster type stuff. But I loved it. I loved Taboo from the start, and then there's a great song on there called Sirens, with JID, which is one of my favorite songs of the year. Just a great political, talking about police violence, talking about what it's like to, be young in this country and just try to enjoy yourself with your friends, and how that is even just being around your friends in public is now become a danger, to, living, in some of these situations, some of these places. So, like I said before, sometimes I just need that pick me up, and I don't want it to all be really stupid. I think he's doing it in a very smart way. Like, he made a song called Sumo, where he's talking about having so much money in his pockets that they're sumo. And
I know, it's a great song.
Pockets so big, Rakishi. Like Juice would love that lyric. But like, it's silly. It's kind of it's sort of tongue in cheek. And then he has some very poignant, really smart parts in the whole thing. So I loved it. I appreciate you, Joe, for
he's a great talent. Like, searching through this mumble rap stuff that I don't care for personally. He was on one of those BET ciphers maybe a year or 2 ago, and it had 21 Savage and all those guys, but he was on it, and I was like, okay, like, I like him, and then started to look more into his stuff, and he's great for that I don't know, this era, I should say, of hip hop that I don't really care for. I think he's holding a torch, and they should all copy what he's doing. Like, because he has flows, he has something to say. I don't know. What about you, Rodney? Did you check this out, or?
No, I didn't get a chance to check this out.
Right on. All right.
You
should.
Yeah.
Do it now.
Write it down
I'm
your
gonna
hand.
check it out. Plus, I've been hearing a lot of stuff about the JID. People say good things about him also, and I've been meaning to check out one of his projects.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right, Boyan. Now here we go. I know you love her. I know she's on your top 3 most listened to. We have No Name, Room 25.
I write about her in my diary on the edge of my bed.
Do you slide into her DMs? Do you send her like personal messages?
I have not ever slid into her DMs, but
right.
I just think she's super, super talented. Chicago rapper, poet, kind of got her start with some of these poetry jam, slam type nights. Was put on Acid Rap by chance. And then,
is that where she started?
She did.
Aren't they related?
They could be.
I think I want to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I want to say they're related.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they are. I have no idea. I just know she put out Telephone in 2016, which was one of my favorite albums, and then I was really excited about this one, partially because I sort of judge people if I get to see them live what they are about. Like if they're bad live, I probably won't go back to them. And I saw her at Lollapalooza, and she was great. She
Really?
was full energy, full band, really really well done. She also did a Tiny Desk. So
yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I watched it. It was great.
and she's perfect for something like that.
Lullaby rap.
Yeah,
That's her rap style. She's lullaby rap.
It's that neo soul. You're not going to drive faster in your car. The first line, or one of the first lines of Room 25, her album, is that this is this music you put on when you're thinking about everything, and it's it's perfect. It's like, yeah, you know what, that's exactly right. I put this on. I'm thinking about what she is talking about. Just like any good poet, they say something, they want you to think about it. They talk about, this album's about how, how it's hard to be, a girl MC, a woman that is trying to make music that is personal to her, but also trying to, I guess, give the stiff arm to, the people that are thinking she should fit in a certain box.
Like the male dominant thing that hip hop is, right?
Yeah, it's incredibly male dominant. When you try to think of, really good women MCs, and I know you guys talked about this at a previous episode, but we're starting to see a little bit of a resurgence here.
That's
No
good.
Name, Rhapsody, some of these others that
Cardi B, I mean, she's on every song on every radio station.
Yeah, she might be in a little bit of a different category.
Yeah, she is.
I'm not writing in my diary.
Jean Grey.
Yeah, Jean Grey, that's another one. But this is just, if I were to, name, say this, what this album is, I would just say it's beautiful. It's self-funded. I read an interview where she was saying, like, it's all her own money that made this, from royalties from being on Chance's stuff and touring relentlessly behind her first album. And I just think that's such a cool thing.
It's a punk rock ethos.
Man.
It's do it yourself.
It's smart. It keeps you independent, and you get to control your music and
your royalties and everything.
I think is really smart.
And it's more prevalent now than ever in rap, because you can do it. Like you can set up your own studio, you can make your own music, you can put it on any platform you want. Literally any platform you want, and everything that comes back, you get. Look at Chance the Rapper. He's selling out the United Center with no record label.
Yeah, he's like the first independent guy to win a Grammy, I believe.
Right? Yeah,
and that's a big deal, man.
Yeah. So I appreciate her. I think she's just brilliant, really smart. If you listen to this album, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. It's not for everybody, but it is something you put it on if you're just hanging out with your friends, drinking a couple beers, or hanging out with yourself, thinking about your life, whatever it is. It is kind of
you got a crush on her. I think that's what it is.
I think I do too, but
Dude,
it's respectful.
Right.
It's nothing. It's just professional.
Right. Professional.
Do you know who makes her beats? Because that's what really drew me into that is a lot of the instrumentation.
You know what? I don't know exactly who does a lot of her production. I don't know.
Okay,
I have not.
Because the album before with the pink and it's got the artwork. What was that?
Telephone.
You can call me baby or something like that. Or that was my favorite song.
I'm
don't
trying
quote
to
me on that,
remember
but I like that album better than this one.
Yeah, you know what? They're comparable. They're similar. I do think the first one has a few more, I guess maybe catchy or single-worthy type songs. There's a couple of ridiculous lyrics on the first one that are brilliant. I just think when you have a poet that is a poet by trade, and now she's making music and she's rapping and she's you're gonna have some of those lines that you repeat and you're like, wait, did she just say what I thought she said? And she does. So I love the album.
All right, good. Now let's move on to another Chicago MC, and I think you're a little biased. You got a lot of Chicago people in your list. But at any rate, we were talking before off mic. We all enjoyed this album, and it's a great album. And thank you for showing him to me, because I had no idea.
Yeah.
I was more of a Mick Jenkins kind of guy,
Right.
with the waters and stuff. But go
Drink
ahead.
more water.
Yeah, drink more water. Stay hydrated. But who am I talking about? Tell everybody.
This
man.
is Saba. Care for Me is his album. So Chicago rapper, producer, also got his start with Chance. So, more and more I think about Chance, I like him more and more.
I want to say he might be related to him also. I think he just puts on his whole family.
Right?
Chance's brother is a rapper too.
Yeah,
I forgot
yeah.
his name. But yeah, this guy he's been doing it a little bit longer. also did a Tiny Desk that really got me into him. At one point, I don't want to spoiler alert, but he's singing, or they're doing their first song, and then he introduces everybody, and one of the guys that's singing his background vocals is his dad. And a lot of this album is about his family. It's dedicated to his cousin, or his uncle. I forgot exactly what it was, but actually it was cousin, who was stabbed to death during an altercation. This is a guy that's coming from the west side of Chicago, one of the worst parts. You hear it in the news all the time. One of the worst parts in the country, and is rapping about what happens and singing about what happens in that community. He's on Angels from Chance's album. It's like one of my favorite songs that Chance has ever put out. So, he was on that, and like I said before, really personal stuff. He's got one song on there called "Life," where he talks about this rough upbringing. And it's kind of a hard hitting song. It's a you turn it up to 40 in the car at your house, bother the neighbors. But it's super personal, heartbreaking. I always think about music in, you listen to something for 4 minutes and it tells a story. And if you feel some sort of emotion from it, hey, that's great, man. That's what it should be about.
That's what he did with me with the song Broken Girls. It's probably like one of my favorite songs of the year, because I always talk about this on the podcast too. Your vibe attracts your tribe. And that's one of those songs, man. That's exactly what it is. He's in love with broken girls because maybe himself he's broken. Like it's not all her fault or whoever you're attracted to. Like you got to really focus on yourself if you want to attract the right people in your life. And that song is just absolutely amazing. I was just blown away when I heard that. Like I could relate to it, and so on and so forth. But yeah, that's my track, man.
I thought this album was really dark. For me to hear this album be like my first impression, I wonder what he's going to do after it, because it's just so dark. It's him really trying to deal with the depression of his cousin Walter getting stabbed, and like every day he's like, it's hard for me to wake up, it's hard for me to do this, and then mixed in with other little issues and stuff that's going on, and like he kind of leaves it. Like on the song Prom King, he kind of leaves
Prom King's great. My cousin Ian, I sent this to him, not to cut you off, but he's like, Prom Queen, dude. I'm like, it's just great song.
He just like leaves it open. He doesn't really finish the story, so I wonder if he's going to do that. But then when you listen to it again, you pick up on what happened and stuff. Then he talks about his uncle who went to jail and was in there for X amount of time, and then after he got out, he just gets killed. We really don't know. Like, I don't know. To me, this is just really dark. But the beats were really good. That jazz instrumentation and how it switches, like the beat will speed up and he'll just rap really aggressively, and you can feel the emotion of it. So I mean,
with the jazz rap behind that, like in the storytelling, like this is a great album from front to finish. Like especially the first 5 tracks, like out of all the music I've listened to this year, like the first 5 tracks of this album, like it doesn't get any better.
Yeah, and to Rodney's point, and Joe, you as well said it, he does have that moment of where he's kind of changing. Each song has its own sort of topic, that he has the one that with Chance that's about logging out and like being way too tied into your digital footprint or what you're doing online, and like if you log out you're done. It's a great song. But then he also talks about like child abuse and Fighter. He talks about Smile, where he's like, hey, if I ever get on, then we're gonna my family's from the South, we're gonna have a house in the South, and I'm gonna have a smile on my face. There is each song has something to it. Supposedly the Prom King song is a real story about his cousin and him. So the cousin that was killed.
For sure. I thought all these stories.
I don't think any of this is BS.
Yeah, so you can't make nothing up like that.
It's
like,
very personal, and I love when an artist does that. They bring you into their personal life, and especially with an MC that can do that, and you can relate. I mean, like you said, like he's from the west side of Chicago. I'm not from there. I mean, we're from Chicagoland area, but I don't know. I don't know what he has to go through, but to be that compassionate and that good of an MC, to actually be able to walk into his, and just shoot, like into his footprints. He's dope.
Oh, another point. You said he did a Tiny Desk?
He did.
I remember on one of the songs he was talking about that Saba should have been either in the army or went to college, and then he's like, you're doing hip hop, and I went through this with your dad, and I didn't get that line really, but now that you said he was backup singing, it all makes sense now. So like, he probably didn't want him to do that, and then he probably had a kid, and he probably influenced him to do music or whatnot.
Yeah, I think all of us as music lovers love that concept of a story. Like, it's easy to listen to a story. It's it's not super abstract. A lot of it is straightforward, but it's done in a way that is that you want to know what the next line is. Like in Prom King, I'm like, okay, so he's going for this girl. He doesn't know this girl, but everybody was in that position at some point. Where you're 17, you're like, hey man, I'll whatever, I'll take a chance on this. Yep. And you want to know what's next. Her brother comes up. Okay, what's next? What's gonna happen? What happened? So I love that I love that music in general. It doesn't, not just in hip hop, but I love that music. But hip hop has a way of doing that way more often than a rock song or a punk song or something.
And
like that.
And he name dropped No Name. Did you hear that? They were gonna go to her concert later.
Yeah. See, I love I love No Name. I love Saba. I love supporting the Chicago people. You're right, Joe. I am a little bit biased.
Yeah.
But whenever they come up, whenever they have kind of this, a notoriety that is on the rise, I feel like we have an obligation to give them a chance, because I feel like we're kind of stuck in the middle there. If you start to talk about start to talk about rappers from Chicago, how many of them have been, super famous? There's a handful, and as soon as they become famous, like Kanye said he wouldn't do, they leave and they never come back, and they don't care about their city. So I just always try to support those Chicago rappers that are doing Chicago the right way.
Chance is putting the right people. I think he's got a really good, nose for talent, like an Eazy-E did or something, and he's bringing his people on, and I'm happy about it, man.
Yeah, and one last point on this album and Chance. I got into acid rap a little bit, as he's gotten a little bit more famous. I listened to all the tracks that he, whatever puts out. I am more and more impressed with him, because who else does what he does? Like, when he's on a track, he's the only one that sounds like that. He's the only one that does that kind of delivery. He's the only one that has that kind of cadence. And you have a lot of these Chicago rappers that are biting that style, and rappers overall that are kind of biting that style. But he's the originator of that, and every single time. So even in this song Log Out, you're like, okay, that's Chance. I know it right away. I don't have to like look at the credits or anything like that. So I have a lot of respect for him and what he brings to people.
Me too. I agree. Like with the positive thing, like especially with Saba here, a lot of people look at the drill scene in Chicago and all the violence and all that, and like, I don't subscribe to it. I don't really care for that, like Chief Keef and stuff. It's just not my thing. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to see these particular artists coming out being a little bit more positive, and dope MCs talking about actual life experiences, so shout out to that. Now let's transition real quick into all of our honorable mentions, and we'll just go through it. I'll start off real quick. Albums that came out this year that I really love: JPEG Mafia, Veteran. He's more of an alternative rapper. Everybody check that out. Flatbush Zombies, Vacation in Hell. I've liked Flatbush Zombies forever. And Michi Darko. Yeah, Michi Darko. He's a great MC. What was that one mixtape they had? Vacation in Hell? No, not Vacation. I just
Odyssey
said that. Odyssey something, or Better Off Dead. Okay. Better Off Dead. That's like my favorite thing by Flatbush, but that's something everyone has to check out. Then Freddie Gibbs, he did two things this year. He did Freddie, which is like, I don't know, just like a little EP, but you want to get into some gangster shit real quick, Freddie will do that for you. And he's a very versatile rapper to where, when he's
friend of the show too.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll get him on one day. We'll get him on. But I like Freddie because he could actually sing his own hooks now, and then he can spit shit over Mad Lib, like we were talking about, beats, and then he could spit shit on trap beats, and then he can get personal, or he could get really gangster about shit. So that's a good album. And he did Fetty with Currency. That literally just came out 2 weeks ago.
And Alchemist, right?
Yeah. That's
phenomenal.
A great album. So, I mean, honorable mentions, like we were saying earlier, there's a lot of good hip-hop this year, but that is a really, really good record. You agree, Rod?
Yeah, definitely agree.
Okay. Like I said, go ahead.
I'm glad, because I've heard, because they've always done tracks together, and some of them are Alchemist production. I just glad that Currency was at least in the ballpark, because usually it's nasty when they're doing tracks together.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and Alchemist did his thing on this. Some of those beats are incredible.
They're great. Yeah, they're great.
It fits both of their delivery and how it all meshed together.
Yeah, they complement each other very well. How about you, Boyan? What's some honorable mentions?
Czarface and Doom, Anderson .Paak, the Brockhampton, even though I was a little bit disappointed by it. I think Brockhampton is still pretty talented, so it might take a few more listens. Freddie Gibbs, I have Freddie Gibbs on there. Pusha T. I also have the Black Panther album, which is underrated, I think. I mean, it
came out right at the beginning of the year.
It did, yeah. You have to kind of know what you're getting. You're getting a movie soundtrack, you know. But there's enough tracks on there that I thought were pretty impressive. Plus, I mean, Kendrick kind of does the whole thing.
It was like Kendrick's album for the year, but it wasn't his album.
I felt like it was a TDE album.
It was.
It was.
Yeah, he's trying to put his buddies on, but I still liked it. I mean, there was enough good tracks on there. And then I'm gonna the last one is Bus Driver. Electricity is on our side. So this is an album that is not for everybody, and
Rodney,
it is.
You said that earlier.
Yeah, it is a little out there, but if you're a Bus Driver fan, if you've heard of Bus Driver, this is probably one of the best things he's put out in a while. It is kooky. It is like 19 tracks of weird, over the top, odd rap. Odd rap is weird.
Yeah, his flow and the production, everything about it is just off kilter.
Off kilter is a great way to put it.
It's different, man. So it's not for everyone, but I do enjoy Bus Driver. There was an album a few years ago. I don't remember what it's called, but I jammed it. You know, like it's not every day. It's not something for every day. You know, whatever. But yeah, he's a good rapper, and the production's amazing.
I forgot. Boyan had told me about Open My Ego, or he sent me a video of his, and I went back and listened to the whole EP. That was pretty solid.
He came out with an album this year too. Right?
He came out with an EP. So I have real quick. I'll just go.
Yeah.
I have Fetty on there as well, just like you, Joe. The Black Thought, Streams of Thought, which is
thank you. Yeah, that's great.
Black Thought, Ninth Wonder. So if we're putting Daytona and Ye and
we're just gonna call it all releases because this year, especially
crazy.
with hip hop, like there's been. It could be an EP, a mixtape, whatever. We'll just call it releases. But yeah, that Black Thought was
Black Thought. If it was 7 songs, it would be. I mean, I played that nonstop, and I guess he's coming out with the second part of that in the next week
all
or two.
All produced by Ninth Wonder.
It is all produced by Ninth Wonder. So I thought that was great. And then Open Mike Eagle did come out with a little EP. So I think that might be a new prevalent thing where you have Ye coming out with these 7-track albums, quote unquote albums, but you also have these guys coming out with 5 tracks. So. I mean, do they qualify as albums? I don't know. But it's just good songs. It's a collection of good songs.
Nerdy about it, you know. I mean, it's a release. Rodney, you got any honorable mentions? Anything else? You good?
Probably just West Side Gun album. That's like probably my far left for you guys. It's just drug and luxurious raps over. They have a producer, Derringer, and he's like an Alchemist kind of, but just filthier. And then they're part of Griselda Records. They just got signed to Shady maybe earlier this year, but they've been putting out a lot of music, and I would check it out, at least instrumental wise. You will like it.
What about the flow though? I mean, what? I mean, it's just real street raps.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's real street raps. It's nothing. It's like. It's three, and it's a Griselda Records, and it's 3 members. It's West Side Gun, Conway the Machine, and Benny the Butcher. And Conway and Benny are more technical. They have the more multi-syllables, but it's still street stuff. And then West Side, he has the high-pitch, voice, so he, does the hooks and maybe fills in for some of the stuff. But, when they're all on a song together, it's real good. They got his album featured Busta Rhymes, Elzai, Rock Marciano.
Okay.
Who else? That's all I can remember off the top of my head, but that's been getting a lot of spins.
Yeah, cool. Now we're going to do this. This is how we're going to close it out. We're going to transition into happy 20-year-old birthday albums that came out in 1998. Boyan, I'm going to have you close it out with those 2 particular that we talked about, but I'm going to get into a few real quick, and you guys could help me out here. Gangstar Moment of Truth. You know, we were talking about Premier and Guru. That's an amazing album. So I mean, I don't know what else to say. I feel like Guru doesn't get the props that he should as one of the best MCs of all time. I love his voice. I know he was a Boston dude, and then he hooked up with Premier from New York, you know, and that particular album is just amazing. So, you guys got anything to say about that? Or
Yeah.
come on, boy. And I know you're a Gangstar guy.
My buddy Brian put me on Gangstar. Brian Boxa, old Maryville head. But he told me about this, and so I, you know, whatever. I was in college at the time. I think Above the Clouds, Inspector Deck's on that.
Inspector Deck's on it. It's got that JFK sample in the beginning.
Yeah, man, dude, that's like one of the most recognized. Like, if I were to anybody that has ever listened to rap or listened to rap shows, or like, they would know that beat. That is a legendary, you know, DJ Premier like beat. It's one of the most classic sounds. They also had Work, obviously, is I think one of the opening tracks.
Yeah, I remember that.
But yeah, I think as a young early hip hop like connoisseur, I was craving stuff like this. Great production. Again, Guru doesn't get the credit he deserves.
Knowledge of Self. Remember that song too? It just starts off like he bumps into like a Muslim dude. Remember like the beginning, and it's just a great song. Like, I like that little skit and just the way he breaks down everything. It's like he's like an encyclopedia of mindfulness. You know, like, I love Guru.
Oh,
I love it. Again, it's for those people that love that conscious rap that is maybe the next level of thought. That's what Gangstar did. I mean, they did it every single album. They tried to do it every single album. So I love that album. One of my favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll transition now to Big Pun, Capital Punishment. We talked a little bit about that off mic, but Big Pun, man, bar for bar, he's just an animal. Unfortunately, he wasn't here long enough, but this album, I remember when it came out. I Don't Want to Be a Player No More. Remember, that was like the big one. Yeah. I'm not a player, I just crush a lot. But like, if you go back and listen to that, the Deep Cover song, remember Deep Cover with Snoop and Dre? Him and Fat Joe have a track over that. Like, they have a song over that same beat and instrumental, and bar for bar, New York style. It doesn't get any better than that.
Is that the what's the middle of Italy and didn't know diddly?
Yeah, that's it. Middle of Italy, don't know diddly. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, Big Pun is just a monster on the microphone. So I wanted to point that one out. And then Lauryn Hill, the Miseducation. You know, I mean, what else? I mean, everything's probably already been said about that.
Diamond album.
It is a diamond.
She just went on tour doing just those songs.
She
it's
did,
pretty cool.
She?
Yeah.
Like, what happened to her? She kind of fell off, didn't she?
Yeah, she had a family, didn't want to do music. It's
okay.
Good for her, right?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But I mean, that album and, you know, the Fugees, we could do a whole episode on that. But yeah,
that album was, I feel like that's one of those MTV albums for me. It was like every single song on the album had a video.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Bojan, here's your chance. Here's your time, because you told me about these many months ago, you know, and I think I mentioned it on an episode, but we'll start with Black Star. You know, this is a 20-year reunion for that album. Mos Def and Talib are Black Star. What do you have to say about it, man?
It's top 5 album all time for me.
Wow, bold statement.
It is.
That's a bold statement.
It truly, and you know what? The next one is close too. Mm-hmm. I guess it shaped who I was as a rap fan. You know, when I heard this album, it shaped what I thought about, you know, politics and the way the world works, and you know what rap can do, what music can do. So if you go through this album, you know it's mostly produced by High Tech, who's one of the best to do it at a time where Mos Def and Talib Kweli were at the pinnacle of what they were doing. You know, it is an incredible album, great features. Common's on one of the songs. Again, at a time where
favorite one with Common.
Yeah, at a time where Common was at his peak. So
we're talking about spray painting, like, remember it was like a graffiti thing?
Yeah, Respiration. Yeah. So this is, you know, I can talk for an hour and a half about this album, each song, to break it down if you want.
We could do that. We could do that another episode, because it is a classic, man. It's a classic.
It is a great album. it is, like I said, some of the lyrics and some of the lyrical content of it changed the way that, again, I viewed how other people other than a middle class white person lives, and it changed me. It truly did. It made me hungry for more music like that and more knowledge about that kind of stuff. I ended up reading a lot more about those kinds of things. I ended up growing some empathetic thoughts about other people other than my selfish 18, 19-year-old self. So it really was a super influential album to me. And I can, like I said, I have a lot of respect for those guys. At that time, that this is their best to me. It's the best that they've done
for both of them. I think both artists, like
Talib Kweli and Mos Def continue to, I guess his name's Yasin Bey now, but they still make things. And none of it. It's just that was when they were their best. Everything now is good, but this is when they were their best.
I agree. Rodney, you got anything to say about that album? Or?
No,
you good?
I'm good.
All right, Bojan.
It's his least favorite album.
His least favorite album. I hate Black Star.
It's just been a while since I listened to it. I gotta check it out again and get re-familiar before I make any real statement.
It's just a great flow too from start to finish, and it's got, I don't want to say that jazz rap, but it like a New York subway vibe. Everything about it just like, I've never been to New York, but like that album has that, like, like if you're hanging out in a subway in New York, that's the best way I could describe it.
Yeah, it's the neo soul type of thing that I like about No Name. How
would you feel if they said they were making another one or a part two?
You know what, they did tour, or I guess it was a mini tour or whatever, but they did that a couple years ago, and there was talk of it. At this point, it's one of those things like I loved,
It was of the age.
Yeah, I loved, the Home Alone movie, but I don't want them to remake it. You know what I mean? Like,
kind of let it be.
Yeah, just let it be there. Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's move on to Outkast. Go ahead. I know you're chomping at the bit. I know Rodney likes this album too.
Yeah.
I'm shaking in the chair. I'm so excited. Outkast Aquemini. My buddy AJ and I, he used to drive me to school in his Chevy Malibu. We listened to Outkast and I guess Southern rap every single day on the way to and from school every single day. But this was another one of those albums that kind of changed my perception of what music can be, because it was so out there for the time. I mean, if you listen to this, it was like nothing that was out. It had some funk, it had some, full band type stuff. It also had that traditional Southern rap type stuff. It was really grimy in some of the songs where you had, true street poetry going on, where they're talking about some very serious things. And then you had some other stuff talking about barbecues, and hanging out. So it was, to me, it's start to finish one of my favorite albums. It's my favorite Outkast album, though, ATLians is another one of my favorites. And
this is your favorite?
This is my favorite. Stankonia is great.
I love Stank.
Yeah, Love Below, Speaker Box is great. But the variety of song, the variety of types of things that happen on this album, I don't know another album that's like this. And when you're talking about duo rap, again, just like Black Star, duo rap is a very delicate thing.
You have to compliment.
You have to know what each person is capable of. And these are two guys that are incredible rappers by themselves, but made an album where they accentuated what each of them is really good at. That Andre was a little bit of that kind of out there, a little kookiness type rapper, and Big Boy was a little bit more straightforward, but it works. The production's brilliant. It's the first album they made when they had a little bit of money, and so they kind of, they had George Clinton on the album. They had Raekwon the Chef was on the album.
Yeah, Raekwon. They had a video for that one. I remember that back in the day. Yeah.
So you have some, you have some of these things that you probably didn't have in the first couple albums, where they were just kind of figuring it out. So, the famous song that got us all into it was Rosa Parks. But that, again, listening to Rosa Parks made me buy the album, and then the whole entire album made me love Southern rap, and it made me kind of go down that path. And again,
Return of the Gangsta, man. That's my song. I watched something, and I somewhere on YouTube, but that opening verse, how he's off time, how Andre's off time, and how he's spitting, it's like way ahead of its time, and no one else has really done anything like that since then. You know, like he's a dope MC. It's a classic album. You know, it has that funk vibe, and I think both of them complement each other very well. You know, like they were swaggy before the term.
Yeah,
and they're like own individuals. You know,
nobody was doing.
Big Boy was more of a pimp, and then you know Andre 3000 was just kind of like a kooky, just out there dude.
Yeah, nobody was dressing like that. Nobody was like. Again, you had like that funk vibe. Maybe funk artists were dressing like that, but not hip hop guys. Not guys that were supposed to be, you know, gangster rappers or you know whatever.
I think that's a good point. I think Big Boy would like. The traditional Southern person would like Big Boy, so you know, okay, I want to hear what he has to say, and then it would ease you into Andre. Like, yo, if it was Andre by himself, I don't think it would have been as successful. And if it was Big Boy by himself, it'd have just been maybe another Southern rapper, even though they're both really good. And you would have never like picked it up unless they were meshed together. Because I would have never thought they would have complemented each other if you gave them to me separately. Like, nah, this won't work. This couldn't be a group.
It hasn't worked since they broke up. I mean, seriously, think about it. Like, I mean, I know Big Boy had some, you know, they both had some solo stuff, but they complement, you know, one another like yin and yang, you know, because they're so different.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way. Would it have even worked? Like Big Boy just would have been another guy, and I don't know if Andre would have ever got on.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, they'd have been, yeah.
And he only got kookier as the albums went on. Like he only got weirder and more out there. But hey, man, even now, like when either of them are on a feature, that's the first song I'm listening to on an album. Because still, Andre is still good.
Yeah.
He and maybe he's only doing like 5 songs a year now, but he's still good. He still has enough bars. So
well, hopefully they get back together, man.
And Outkast has a lot to do with like how I've grown in taste in music, because when they first came out, I'm pretty sure I really just liked Big Boy and didn't think Andre 3000 was that good. And as I matured and like, you know, expanded on experience and stuff and went back and listened to it, I'm like, yo, both of these guys are good. It's not just one of them, or you know, my opinion changed. That's what's pretty cool. Like,
and everybody has their favorites for those. Like, you know, for Black Star, I'm always a Mos Def guy. I'm always an Andre 3000 guy. Like I loved Below way more than I love Speaker Box. But
yeah, it's hard to pick. If I had to, you know, I guess I like Talib better than Mos Def.
Everybody has their own thing.
With
man.
Outkast, that's hard because I like both of them a lot, you know. But at any rate, well, guys, thanks for coming. I don't have any hate mail tonight.
Everybody loves you,
I don't
Joe.
have any.
it's all love.
No meditate on this. We're just going to end it because I think it's perfect. We hit it. You know, we covered a lot. You know, for 2018 releases, and then going back into the history of hip hop within the last 20 years, those particular releases. So, Rodney, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I'll have you on again. So,
cool.
So keep up with your hip hop or whatever kind of music you're into, man.
I'll stay on top of it.
Right on, and Bojan, thanks again.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, everybody, check out Musically Meditated, subscribe, share. We're on all listening platforms, and adios. Everybody, have a good night.
Peace.
I'm musically meditated.
That's right.
I'm musically meditated. That's right. I'm musically meditated.
Producer my ass over there.